This audiobook reveals the ancient truth that your assumptions shape your reality. What you assume to be true in the sacred chamber of your mind must appear in your outer world. Listen closely, and you will remember the power that has always been yours. The Law of Assumption. Introduction. The wisdom you are about to uncover has been preserved by those who understood its transformative force, masters who knew that true power does not reside in the external world, but in the sacred chamber of your own consciousness. The law of assumption stands as one of the universe's most fundamental principles, as constant as the rising sun and as natural as the changing seasons. This eternal law reveals that your outer world is but a reflection, a mirror image of your inner convictions. What you hold as truth in the depths of your being must, by universal decree, manifest in your visible reality. You have walked through life believing that circumstances shape your thoughts, that external conditions determine your internal state. Yet this perception inverts the true order of creation. Your assumptions, those deep, unwavering beliefs you hold about yourself and your place in the universe, are the very seeds from which your reality grows. This is not mere positive thinking or hollow repetition of words. The law of assumption transcends such surface-level practices. It calls you to embody the state of your desire's fulfillment, to assume the consciousness of already being what you wish to become. When you speak within yourself as one who has already received, when you move through your days carrying the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the universe must reshape itself to match your inner knowing. As you journey through these teachings, you will discover that this power has always resided within you. Like a forgotten inheritance, it has waited patiently for you to claim it. The gates to this wisdom now stand open before you, offering passage to a dimension where your thoughts and assumptions craft the very fabric of your experience. This knowledge liberates through understanding, not complex rituals. Like any natural law, the law of assumption works with certainty. It simply needs your conscious participation. Part 1. Awakening the Inner Creator. Chapter 1. The Law That Was Never Lost. In the shadow-draped ruins of an ancient temple, Walter, a weathered traveler, discovered a dust-covered scroll that would unveil one of existence's most sacred mysteries. As his trembling fingers unrolled the brittle parchment, golden symbols shimmered in the fading light, revealing words that had waited centuries to be found. As within, so without. What thou holdeth true in thy heart becomes the very fabric of the world. You now stand where countless seekers have stood before, at the threshold of understanding that your entire existence flows from a single wellspring, your assumptions about yourself and the world around you. This eternal law has whispered its truth through the ages, patiently waiting for those ready to hear its message. The law of assumption does not discriminate between conscious and unconscious beliefs. Like water taking the shape of its container, your reality molds itself to fit your deepest convictions. Most wander through life unaware, their assumptions shaped by circumstance rather than choice, never realizing they hold the power to reshape their world through the silent decrees of their own mind. In a small village among rolling hills there lived Margaret, a widow whose days had grown heavy with solitude. One evening, as she watched the sun paint the sky in gentle hues, something stirred within her heart. Instead of yearning for peace, she began to live as though peace had already found her. She tended her garden not to fill empty hours, but as one who had discovered life's quiet joy. She wrote in her journal not from loneliness, but from a place of contented reflection. As weeks passed, Margaret noticed subtle shifts in her world. Neighbors began stopping by with fresh bread and conversation. Birds gathered near her window each morning, their songs seeming to echo her inner harmony. The very air around her home seemed to shimmer with tranquility. Margaret had not changed her circumstances. She had changed her assumptions about her place within them. Margaret's transformation reveals the essence of this ancient law. Assumption is not an act of thinking, but a state of being. She did not merely think about peace. She assumed the consciousness of one who lives in peace. To practice this principle, find solitude at dawn or dusk. If desired, light a candle to create sacred space. Write down 3 assumptions governing your life. Transform them into present tense statements of truth. Speak these declarations daily, not as future wishes, but as current realities resonating within you. Chapter 2. You are already creating. In a time-worn library where ancient wisdom lingered in the air, young Arthur found himself drawn to a leather-bound tome that seemed to pulse with living energy. As he opened its weathered chapters, words began to materialize before his eyes, not written by mortal hand, but manifesting in response to the thoughts flowing through his mind. This sacred moment reveals a truth you have always known, but perhaps forgotten. Every moment of your existence is guided by the same principle that brought those mystical words to life. You are already wielding the law of assumption, though you may not recognize its constant operation. Each whispered doubt, each moment of certainty, each belief you hold about yourself shapes the tapestry of your experience with unwavering precision. The universe does not choose which of your assumptions to manifest. It reflects them all with perfect fidelity. Listen to the inner dialogue that flows through your mind. These are not mere thoughts but decrees, each one setting in motion forces that will manifest in the physical world. When you say, "I never have enough time," the universe moves to ensure this becomes your reality. When you believe, "Good things come easily to me," this too becomes your truth. In a busy hospital corridor, Helen, a dedicated nurse, lived her days beneath a cloud of her own making. "Just my luck," she would sigh when the elevator doors closed just as she approached. "Of course this would happen to me," she muttered when caught in traffic. Day after day her words proved prophetic, not because fate had marked her, but because she had marked herself. Her story shifted only when she discovered that her constant narrative of misfortune was being fulfilled with the precision of natural law. This revelation comes not to burden you with guilt, but to awaken you to your divine power. Every assumption, whether empowering or limiting, manifests with equal ease. The law does not judge your assumptions, it simply fulfills them. Take your journal and inscribe within it the phrases that most often cross your lips and echo in your mind. What stories do you tell about money, love, success, and your place in the world? Listen carefully to the whispers of your inner dialogue, for they reveal the blueprint of your current reality. Choose 3 of these narratives that have limited your expression of greatness. Besides each one, write a new assumption, not as a hope, but as an established fact. Let these new declarations emerge not from desperation, but from the quiet certainty of one who knows their true nature. Speak these new truths daily, not as affirmations to be proven, but as existing realities to be recognized. Remember, you are not creating something new, but rather awakening to what has always been, your divine inheritance of abundance and grace. And Chapter 3. The Voice Behind the Curtain. In the silence of her mountain cottage, Eleanor lived in solitude, yet she was never truly alone. As she went about her daily routines, whispers would drift through her consciousness, soft at first, then growing clearer. "The storm will come tomorrow," she would think, and sure enough, dark clouds would gather. No one will visit today, her mind would murmur, and the path to her door remained empty. What began as curiosity transformed into understanding as she recognized these whispers were not prophecies from beyond, but her own thoughts returning as manifest reality. You too are engaged in this sacred dialogue every moment of your existence. Your inner conversation, that constant stream of thoughts and assumptions you carry within, forms the template from which your outer world is cast. The universe listens not to your wishes or your hopes, but to the quiet certainty of your inner speech. When you declare "I am," whether in thought or whisper, you issue a command to the very fabric of existence. These inner declarations are not mere reflections of your reality. They are its architects. Each "I am" reverberates through the chambers of creation, gathering the forces necessary to bring itself into being. In a small workshop filled with the scent of fresh-cut wood, George crafted furniture with skilled hands while his mind crafted limitations. "I can barely make ends meet," he would think as he sanded oak surfaces. "My work goes unnoticed," he would sigh as he fitted joints together. Yet as he learned the ancient wisdom of inner dialogue, he began to speak differently within himself. "My craftsmanship draws those who value excellence," he would say as he worked. "Abundance flows to me through my dedication to beauty," he would affirm while sketching designs. Within months, his once quiet workshop hummed with activity, his pieces sought after by those who recognized true artistry. Your inner dialogue is not random chatter. It is the script your world faithfully performs. As George discovered, when you alter the conversation within, the circumstances without must follow suit. For the next 24 hours, become the watchful guardian of your inner world. Notice each thought that crosses your mind, especially those that speak of who you are and what is possible in your life. When you catch yourself in dialogue that contradicts your desired reality, pause. Replace these thoughts immediately with words that align with your highest vision. This is not an exercise in positive thinking. It is the conscious wielding of universal law. Let each thought be chosen with the same care you would use in selecting seeds for a garden, knowing that every inner word will bear fruit in its season. Chapter 4. Belief is the seed of becoming. In a small village among rolling hills, Clara tended to a patch of earth so barren even weeds refused its embrace. Yet each morning, she would kneel beside her chosen plot, place seeds into the dusty soil, and speak to them as though they were already flourishing gardens. You see, Clara understood what many spend lifetimes seeking to grasp. That belief needs no permission from current circumstances to manifest its truth. While others mocked her dedication to seemingly lifeless earth, she continued her daily ritual, speaking to her garden as though it already bloomed in abundance. Through the whispers of ancient wisdom, you now encounter this timeless truth. Your assumptions, when charged with unwavering belief, require no external validation to manifest. Just as Clara's seed sprouted in soil that science deemed impossible, your deepest convictions will flourish regardless of present conditions. The power of assumption transcends physical laws because it operates in the realm of pure creation. When you plant a belief in the soil of your consciousness and nurture it with absolute certainty, you initiate a process as natural as the changing of seasons. This is the mystical science of feeling it real, where your inner knowing becomes more substantial than any external evidence to the contrary. Consider Henry, who graced the stages of small theaters for decades. While others saw an aging actor past his prime, Henry assumed a different truth. Each morning, he would sit in his modest apartment and feel the weight of artistic fulfillment in his bones. He did not chase fame or acclaim, but instead embodied the certainty of creative expression in its purest form. As months passed, his performances began to carry a depth that transcended traditional success, touching audiences in ways his younger self could never have imagined. Your own assumptions, like seeds in fertile soil, need only your sustained belief to flourish. The outer world may present facts that contradict your chosen truth, but these are merely shadows of old beliefs passing away. Your task is not to convince others, or even to convince yourself. It is to assume the feeling of your desire fulfilled until it becomes your only reality. Ancient practice of belief activation. Select one assumption that represents your deepest desire. Write it clearly on parchment or paper. Each day at sunrise or sunset, speak these words aloud with the conviction of one who knows their truth. Then, in perfect stillness, allow yourself to be immersed in the feeling of this reality, not as a future hope, but as a present fact. Let this feeling permeate every cell of your being until the boundary between assumption and reality dissolves. Chapter 5. Emotion is the fire. In the heart of an ancient town where cobblestone streets wound like ribbons through time, Josephine crafted candles in her small workshop. Each day, she would melt the wax and pour it into molds, but she began to notice something extraordinary. The light from her candles seemed to carry the very essence of her feelings while making them. When her heart brimmed with joy, the candles cast a warm golden glow that made flowers lean toward their light. When worry clouded her mind, the flames flickered weakly, as though reflecting her inner state. Through this discovery, Josephine unveiled one of the universe's most powerful secrets. Emotion is the fuel that transforms thought into reality. You must understand that assumption alone is but a seed. It is emotion that brings it to life. Your thoughts, when infused with genuine feeling, become living forces that shape the fabric of your existence. Like Josephine's candles, your assumptions radiate with the energy you pour into them. Think of your desired reality as a ship setting sail. Your assumption is the vessel, but your emotion is the wind that fills its sails. Without this vital force, even the most perfectly constructed ship remains motionless in the harbor of unfulfilled dreams. Edwin, a sailor of the northern seas, learned this truth while navigating through dense fog. Traditional instruments failed him, but he discovered an inner compass, one that responded to his emotional certainty. When fear gripped him, his ship would drift aimlessly. But when he allowed himself to feel the absolute knowing of safe passage, the fog seemed to part before him, revealing the way forward as though guided by an unseen hand. Just as Edwin learned to trust his emotional guidance, you too must cultivate the art of emotional mastery. The universe responds not to the words you speak, but to the feeling tone of your being. When you align your emotions with your desired state, you create a magnetic force that draws your assumptions into physical form. Now let us engage in this sacred practice of emotional alchemy. Find a quiet space and recall a moment of pure joy, perhaps a triumph, a peaceful sunrise, or an embrace that fills your heart with warmth. Allow this memory to wash over you completely. Feel how this joy resonates in your body. Notice where it glows brightest within you. This is your emotional anchor. With this feeling alive in your being, gently introduce your chosen assumption. Let the joy infuse every word of your new truth. If you desire abundance, feel the warmth of prosperity as though it already embraces you. If you seek love, let your heart expand with the feeling of being deeply cherished. Hold this unified state of emotion and assumption for several minutes, allowing them to merge into a single powerful force. Chapter 6. The Great Mirror. In a marketplace that has existed since time immemorial, Mabel arranged her mirrors with practiced care. Each morning, she would polish the surfaces until they gleamed like still pools of water. Yet as the days passed, she noticed something extraordinary. The reflections in her mirrors showed not just the physical form of those who gazed into them, but the very essence of what they believed about themselves. A wealthy merchant who secretly felt unworthy saw himself in tattered clothes. A humble baker who knew her true value beheld herself crowned in light. Through these mirrors, Mabel witnessed the profound truth that had been whispered by sages throughout the ages. The world reflects back to you precisely what you hold within. You live in a universe that operates as a grand mirror, responding with perfect precision to your deepest assumptions. When you walk through life believing in lack, the mirror of reality shows you evidence of scarcity. When you carry an unwavering knowing of abundance, the same mirror reveals unlimited opportunity. This mirror-like quality of existence explains why two people can face the same circumstance, yet experience entirely different outcomes. It is not the external event that determines your experience, but the internal assumption you bring to it. Leonard, a stonemason, lived in a village known for its harsh judgment and cold relationships. Each day, he would walk through the streets, meeting scowls with scowls, until he discovered the mirror principle. Understanding that his world reflected his own assumptions, he began to see beneath the surface of others. Where he once assumed hostility, he now assumed goodwill waiting to be uncovered. Gradually, as if by magic, the very same villagers began to soften. Warm greetings replaced cold stares, and kindness flowed where criticism once ruled. Leonard's story reveals that when you change your inner assumption, the mirror of life must shift to match it. This is not wishful thinking. It is the operation of an immutable law. Sacred practice. Find a quiet place to reflect with pen and paper. Note a recurring pattern in your life, in relationships, work, or daily encounters. Study these repeating situations to uncover the underlying assumption that attracts them. Create a new assumption that matches your desired reality, making it specific and positive. Each morning, speak it to your reflection, feeling its truth deeply. Know that as your inner vision shifts, life will mirror this new truth back to you, following universal law. Chapter 7. The Assumption That Transforms. In a small cottage at the edge of a timeless village, Ethel practiced her healing arts not with herbs or potions, but with the power of pure assumption. As seekers came to her with their ailments, she saw past their symptoms to their inherent wholeness. In her presence, they transformed, not through external remedies, but through her unwavering assumption of their perfect health. You, like Ethel, possess this same transformative power. When you assume a truth about yourself or another, you activate a force more potent than any physical intervention. The universe responds not to what you hope for or wish to be true, but to what you know with certainty. Most spend their lives negotiating with doubt, trying to overcome their circumstances through endless effort. Yet true transformation occurs not through trying, but through being. When you cease struggling against what is and simply assume what shall be, the universe conspires to make it so. In the quiet streets of another village lived Patrick, a man who had known loneliness for many years. Unlike others who sought love through endless searching, Patrick discovered a deeper truth. One morning, he simply began to live as though he were already worthy of love's embrace. He stopped questioning his value, ceased trying to prove himself, and lived from the assumption of being deeply loved. As naturally as dawn follows night, love found its way to him, not through desperate seeking or careful planning, but through the magnetic power of his assumed truth. His story reveals that what you seek is seeking you, but it can only find you when you assume it is already yours. You need not wait for external validation to claim your chosen identity. The power to reshape your reality lies not in convincing others, but in convincing yourself. When you truly assume a new truth about yourself, the outer world has no choice but to reflect this inner knowing. Sacred practice. Each dawn, stand before a mirror when reality bends most easily. Meet your own eyes. They reveal your soul's truth beyond all pretense. Declare your identity aloud as fact, not wish. Let your voice carry absolute certainty, for this is no mere affirmation, but a ritual of becoming. Hold your own gaze as each word sinks past doubt into your core. Chapter 8. Sacred Imagination. In a sunlit studio perched high above winding streets, Agnes stood before her easel, brush poised in hand. With each stroke she painted not mere images, but living scenes drawn from the depths of her desires. As weeks passed, she noticed a curious phenomenon. The world around her began to mirror her canvases with uncanny precision. You, too, hold this creative power within. Your imagination is not a realm of idle fancy, but the sacred workshop where reality is first shaped. What you imagine with vivid detail and emotional intensity becomes the template for your tomorrow. The universe does not distinguish between what you see with your physical eyes and what you perceive in your mind's eye. It responds to both with equal precision. Through the ages, masters have taught that imagination is the first act of creation. When you enter the theater of your mind and rehearse a scene with full sensory engagement, you are not dreaming, you are creating. The key lies not in fleeting daydreams, but in sustained, purposeful imagination infused with the feeling of present reality. In a quiet rehabilitation center, Charles faced what doctors called impossible odds. Rather than accept their verdict, he began a different kind of therapy. Each day he would close his eyes and feel himself walking, not as a future hope, but as a present experience. In his mind, he felt the pressure of each step, the swing of his arms, the rhythm of natural movement. He lived in this inner reality so completely that his body began responding to these mental commands. Your imagination is the bridge between desire and manifestation. When you enter your inner world with intention, engaging all your senses in the experience of your desired reality, you initiate a sequence of creation that must express itself in your outer world. This is not wishful thinking, but the application of universal law. The practice of creative visualization. Find a quiet, private spot. Close your eyes and envision your goal. Engage all senses. See colors, hear sounds, feel textures. For a new home, explore each room mentally. For better health, experience the feeling of vitality. Make your visualization vivid and real. Spend 5 minutes daily on this practice, as devoted as an artist to their work. Your focused imagination paints your future reality. Chapter 9. The Inner Word is Law. In the halls of an ancient schoolhouse, Beatrice discovered a truth that would forever change her understanding of human potential. Each morning, as she gazed upon her students, she noticed how they seemed to embody precisely what she held in her heart about them. Those she silently knew would excel did so, while those she unconsciously doubted struggled, though she had never spoken a word of either expectation. You are, in every moment, wielding this same creative force through your inner speech. The words you whisper within your mind are not mere thoughts. They are edicts that shape the substance of your reality. When you declare within yourself, "I am tired," "This always happens to me," or "I'll never succeed," you are not describing your situation. You are commanding it into being. Your inner dialogue is the foundation upon which your life is built. Each silent statement carries the weight of law, organizing circumstances to match its tone and content. The universe does not judge whether your declarations serve or hinder you. It simply brings them into manifestation with perfect fidelity. Harold, a merchant who had long struggled with poor health and unfulfilling work, learned this principle through necessity. After years of inner criticism and self-doubt, he made an unwavering commitment. He would never again speak against himself, even in the privacy of his own mind. With diligence, he replaced every self-defeating thought with a declaration of strength and capability. "I am whole," he would silently affirm. "I am worthy of excellence. My work brings value to the world." Within months, his body began to strengthen, opportunities for advancement appeared, and a quiet confidence emerged that others could not help but notice. Harold had not changed his circumstances directly. He had changed the inner law that governed them. Your inner speech is not simply commentary on your life, it is the very substance from which your experiences are formed. Every silent word you speak is a seed planted in the fertile soil of universal consciousness. Choose these seeds with the care of a master gardener, for they will surely grow into the garden of your life. The sacred decree practice. Obtain a journal dedicated solely to your daily declarations. Each morning, write 3 statements of truth about yourself and your life, phrased in the present tense as accomplished fact. Speak these declarations aloud with the authority of one who knows their words carry the force of law. Let your voice resonate with the certainty that what you declare within must manifest without. Return to these declarations throughout the day, especially in moments when old patterns of thought arise. This is not mere repetition, it is the establishment of new law in the kingdom of your mind. Chapter 10, From Wish to Reality. In a small village among ancient hills, Florence sat at her weathered wooden table, threading her needle with practiced grace. Yet this humble seamstress possessed wisdom far beyond her craft. As she stitched elaborate patterns into fine fabrics, she wove something far more precious, her deepest desires, into the tapestry of reality itself. You must understand that every desire arising within your heart serves as a divine compass, pointing toward your destined path. These longings are not random whims or cruel temptations. They are sacred messages from the universe showing you what is already yours in the unseen realm. When Florence worked, she did more than simply sew garments. With each stitch, she embodied the success and recognition she yearned for. She felt the texture of prosperity beneath her fingers, saw herself in an elegant workshop of her own, experienced the joy of creating beauty for those who appreciated her artistry. She lived in the end, allowing her assumption to bridge the gap between dream and manifestation. Your desires contain within them the seeds of their own fulfillment. The universe places no wish in your heart without also providing the means for its achievement. Through the power of assumption, you transform these seeds into flourishing realities. Milton, a merchant whose ledgers once showed only losses, discovered this timeless truth. Rather than dwelling in the strain of struggle, he began to assume the state of the successful businessman he longed to become. He walked differently, spoke differently, made decisions from the consciousness of abundance rather than lack. He did not merely hope for prosperity, he lived from the state of its accomplishment. As surely as night follows day, his outer world began to shift. New opportunities appeared, wise choices became clear, and his business flourished. Yet the true transformation occurred not in his circumstances, but in his consciousness. By assuming the state of his fulfilled wish, he allowed the universe to arrange the perfect conditions for its expression. You too can harness this sacred power through an ancient practice known as sleeping in the state. As you lay your head upon your pillow each night, enter fully into the scene of your fulfilled desire. Feel the satisfaction of achievement, the joy of attainment, the peace of knowing your wish is accomplished. Fall asleep in this consciousness, allowing these feelings to sink deeply into your subconscious mind. This practice aligns your entire being, conscious and subconscious, with the reality you wish to experience. As you sleep in the state of your fulfilled desire, you plant powerful seeds in fertile soil, which must, by universal law, grow into manifestation. Like a master gardener who knows that every seed contains within it the blueprint of a fully grown plant, you are nurturing the seeds of your desires in the rich soil of your subconscious mind. The natural forces that transform a tiny seed into a mighty oak are the same divine principles that will shape your planted vision into physical reality. Trust in this process, for it operates with the same unfailing precision as all universal laws. Part 2. Aligning with the Invisible Truth. Chapter 11. Speak as though it is. In the hushed corridors of an ancient library, Dorothy discovered a leather-bound tome unlike any other. As her fingers traced its worn spine, the chapters began to whisper her innermost thoughts. Yet this mystical book revealed a peculiar nature. It would only transform its contents when she spoke with unwavering certainty. You see, the universe responds not to hollow wishes or empty words, but to declarations made with absolute conviction. When you speak with the authority of one who knows their word is law, the very fabric of reality must bend to accommodate your truth. Your voice carries creative power that echoes through the chambers of eternity. Each word you utter is a seed planted in the fertile soil of infinite possibility. But like any seed, it requires the proper conditions to flourish. Words spoken in doubt remain dormant. Those infused with certainty bloom into manifestation. Consider Robert, whose small tailor shop teetered on the edge of closure. Each morning, he stood before his mirror and proclaimed with absolute conviction, "My shop prospers. Customers seek my craftsmanship. Success flows to me naturally." He did not whisper these words as hopeful prayers, but declared them as established facts. At first, nothing seemed to change, yet Robert persisted, allowing no contradiction to his spoken truth. Gradually, as though awakening to his command, circumstances began to shift. A wealthy patron discovered his work. Word of his skill spread through the town. Soon, his once empty shop hummed with activity, his appointment book filled with clients who sought his expertise. The power lay not in the words themselves, but in the certainty with which he spoke them. He had learned to align his speech with his desired assumption, treating it not as a future possibility, but as present reality. To harness this sacred power, you must engage in the practice of verbal scripting. Set aside a quiet moment each day to speak aloud a 1-minute declaration of your life as it is meant to be. Stand before a mirror or in a peaceful space and with unwavering conviction, describe your reality as if every goal has already manifested. Speak with total certainty, as if stating an undeniable truth. Don't hope or wish. Testify to what already exists, since your words shape reality. Let this truth resonate through your entire being, transforming your consciousness. You're not describing possibilities, but commanding reality into existence through speech. Like ancient masters, use your voice as a divine tool, knowing each word plants seeds of manifestation. bridging the unseen and seen. Chapter 12. Living as though it is done. In a small village among rolling hills there lived a woman named Esther, whose heart remained steadfast in love. Each evening, as the sun cast long shadows across her modest home, she would carefully set two places at her dining table. The empty chair across from her was not a symbol of loss, but an assumption of presence. You hold within you the same power that guided Esther's unwavering faith. The art of living from the end is not mere pretense. It is the highest form of spiritual knowing. When you assume the state of your wish is fulfilled, you transcend time itself, stepping into the reality where your desire already exists. Each night Esther would light 2 candles, serve 2 portions, and speak softly as though her beloved sat across from her. She did not act from desperation or loneliness, but from the calm certainty that love's completion was already accomplished. When the letter arrived, bearing news of her husband's survival in a distant hospital, those who knew her witnessed the law of assumption in its purest form. In the sacred workshops of an ancient city, a young apprentice named Vincent carried within him a similar knowledge. Though his hands still trembled with inexperience, he began to carry himself with the quiet dignity of a master craftsman. He adjusted his posture, chose his words with care, and handled his tools with the reverence of one who had already achieved mastery. The other apprentices whispered and wondered at his transformation. Yet Vincent continued, allowing no doubt to enter his assumption. He wore the finest apron he could afford, maintained his workspace with exceptional care, and spoke with the measured wisdom of experience. When the guild masters gathered to select a new master craftsman, they found themselves drawn to Vincent's presence. The position was his, as though it had always been meant for him. These stories reveal a truth as old as consciousness itself. Assumption does not bow to external evidence. It creates the evidence. By living as though your desire is already fulfilled, you align all the forces of creation with your chosen end. Your practice now calls you to select one area of your life and begin living as though your desired outcome is already achieved. Notice the small details of your day that would be different if your wish were fulfilled. How would you walk? What would you say? Which habits would naturally flow from this new state of being? Adjust these details with the same unwavering certainty that guided Esther and Vincent. Let your every action arise from the knowledge that what you seek is already yours. Chapter 13. Unlearning the World's Voice. In a weathered attic beneath layers of dust and forgotten memories, Geraldine discovered an old leather journal. Its chapters held not the expected tales of hardship her grandmother had always spoken of, but radiant declarations of abundance. I am blessed beyond measure. Wealth flows to me naturally. Joy is my birthright. You too carry within you the echoes of those who came before, their fears, their limitations, their assumptions about life's boundaries. These inherited beliefs shape your reality with silent persistence, yet they need not define your future. The universe operates through eternal laws that transcend family histories and cultural conditioning. Your ancestors' struggles were real, but their assumptions about life need not become your truth. Just as Geraldine's discovery revealed a hidden lineage of abundance beneath generations of perceived lack, you possess the power to rewrite your spiritual inheritance. Morris, the son of a stern preacher, grew up surrounded by sermons of unworthiness and divine punishment. Each Sunday, he absorbed messages of limitation, sin, and the need to suffer for salvation. Yet deep within, a quiet voice whispered of a gentler truth. As Morris began questioning these inherited beliefs, he discovered that spirituality could be a path of joy rather than fear. These stories reflect the journey that awaits you. The assumptions passed down through your bloodline or instilled by society were never yours to begin with. They are borrowed garments that no longer fit the expanded consciousness you are stepping into. To transform these inherited limitations, begin by examining the beliefs that feel heavy within your heart. Write them down, not with judgment, but with compassion for the generations who carried them. Then, with the wisdom of your higher self, craft new assumptions that align with the truth of abundance. Ancient practice of belief liberation. Take 5 quiet moments to yourself. On a clean page, list 5 limiting beliefs you inherited from family, culture, or society. Beside each one, write a new assumption that sets you free. Speak these new truths aloud each morning, letting your voice carry the authority of one who chooses their own spiritual path. Feel the weight of old beliefs dissolving as you claim your right to define your own relationship with abundance. Remember, the chains of inherited limitation hold power only through your agreement. You are not bound by the fears of the past, nor must you carry forward the weight of ancestral doubts. Each time you choose to question these handed-down beliefs, you loosen their grip on your spirit. In releasing these old assumptions, you free not only yourself, but create new possibilities for generations to come. Chapter 14. Inner Conversations, Outer Shifts. In a small town where whispers carried like autumn leaves, Sylvia was known for her sharp tongue and endless commentary on others' misfortunes. Each morning she would sit by her window, watching neighbors pass by, her mind weaving tales of judgment and criticism. Yet one day, catching her own reflection in that same window, she heard the bitterness in her inner voice and recognized it was speaking first and foremost to herself. You must understand that your inner dialogue shapes not just your perception, but the very fabric of reality around you. The universe responds not to your words alone, but to the energy they carry, the feelings they evoke, the assumptions they represent. When Sylvia began whispering words of kindness to herself, "I am worthy of love. I see beauty in all things. Peace flows through me," she noticed a subtle shift. The world seemed to soften its edges. Neighbors who once hurried past her window began to pause and wave. Opportunities for connection emerged as naturally as flowers turning toward the sun. Your inner conversation is the most powerful force in your existence. It runs continuously, like water wearing grooves in stone, carving the paths your experiences will follow. Every thought is a seed, every assumption a garden waiting to bloom. Timothy, whose skilled hands repaired the town's timepieces, carried within him a different kind of broken mechanism, the silent discord between himself and his brother. Years of unspoken words had created a chasm deeper than time itself. Yet in his workshop, surrounded by the gentle ticking of clocks, he began to imagine new conversations. "Brother, I understand now," he would say to the empty room. "Our bond is stronger than our differences." Day after day he revised their story in his mind, replacing old grievances with understanding, bitter memories with compassion. Within months a letter arrived, his brother's handwriting on the envelope, reaching across the years with words that echoed Timothy's transformed inner dialogue. This truth extends to every relationship in your life. The conversations you hold in the secret chambers of your mind become the blueprint for your outer experiences. Change the inner dialogue, and watch as the external world reshapes itself to match your new assumption. Practice. Select one relationship that requires healing. Find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed. Close your eyes and begin a new inner conversation with this person. Speak to them in your mind with the warmth and understanding you wish to experience. Feel the reality of harmony between you. Each day for 7 days, spend 5 minutes in this sacred dialogue, assuming the presence of perfect understanding and mutual respect. Let your inner voice become a bridge across which reconciliation can walk. Chapter 15. Self-image is destiny. In a quiet village where judgments hung thick as morning mist, Ruth lived beneath the weight of others' cruel whispers. Each morning she would hurry past shop windows, avoiding her reflection as though it might bite. Yet within her dwelled a truth waiting to be discovered, a radiance that needed only recognition to shine forth. You must understand that your self-concept is not merely a collection of thoughts. It is the very foundation upon which your life is built. Every experience, every relationship, every opportunity flows from this sacred blueprint of identity. When Ruth began to see herself as radiant, she did not do so with empty words or desperate hope. She claimed this truth in the depths of her being, letting it saturate every cell until it became her natural state. Soon others began to pause in her presence, drawn to a light they could not explain. Her transformation required no external change. She simply aligned with the divine image already present within. Your self-concept is the master key that unlocks all doors. It is not what you wish to be, but what you know yourself to be that shapes your world. The universe responds not to your desires, but to your deepest assumptions about who you are. Franklin, whose failed inventions gathered dust in a cramped workshop, carried the label of failure like a heavy coat. Yet one morning, he chose to shed this borrowed identity. Instead of seeing himself through the lens of past attempts, he began to embody the essence of a visionary. He moved differently, spoke differently, thought differently, not as one hoping to succeed, but as one who already carried success in his blood. His breakthrough invention emerged not from desperate effort, but from this new alignment with his true nature. The self-image reset. Take a moment now to write a detailed character study of your higher self. Who are you at your most realized? How does this version of you walk, speak, think, and interact with others? For the next 48 hours, live from this elevated self-concept. Let every action, every word, every thought flow from this truth. You are not pretending. You are remembering who you truly are. This is not an exercise in imagination, but a return to your authentic nature, the divine truth of who you truly are beneath the layers of doubt and limitation. The world has no choice but to reflect back the identity you hold within, for this is the unchanging law of consciousness made manifest. As you align with your higher self, watch as reality reshapes itself to match your inner knowing, transforming circumstances and opportunities to mirror the expanded awareness you now embody. The outer world must conform to your deepest held beliefs about yourself, for this is the sacred contract between consciousness and creation. Chapter 16. The Eyes of the Invisible. In a small mountain village, Harriet lived in perpetual darkness, yet saw more clearly than those blessed with sight. Though her eyes had never known light, her inner vision illuminated paths others could not perceive. Each morning she would sit in her garden, describing future events with such vivid detail that neighbors began to whisper of her gift. You must understand that true sight originates not from your physical eyes, but from the eternal lamp within. The universe does not require external proof to manifest your desires. It responds to the unwavering light of your inner knowing. When you stand before a locked door, your physical eyes may show you barriers, but your inner vision reveals the path beyond. This is the sacred truth that has guided mystics through the ages. Evidence follows faith as surely as dawn follows night. Norman understood this principle, though he did not name it. In his modest apartment, surrounded by unpublished manuscripts, he lived as though his words already touched millions. He wrote not as one hoping to be discovered, but as one whose voice had already awakened nations. Each morning, he sat at his desk with the certainty of a beloved author, feeling the weight of his published works before they existed in form. His assumption was not wishful thinking. It was a knowing so deep it transformed his very essence. When his first book found its way to readers, they felt they were discovering someone they had always known. His success appeared sudden to the world, but it had been completed long ago in the invisible realm where all creation begins. The invisible realm is not empty space. It is the fertile soil from which all manifestation springs forth. Just as a seed contains the full pattern of the oak tree, your inner vision holds the complete blueprint of your desire. Your task is not to force its growth, but to nurture it with unwavering faith. The candle meditation. Light a single candle in a quiet room. Sit before it and allow your eyes to close. In this sacred darkness, see your desire with your inner eye, not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. Feel its texture, its weight, its certainty. Then, speaking with the authority of one who knows, declare these words: I see it, I feel it, it is done. Let these words emerge not as a plea to the universe, but as a recognition of what already exists in the realm of pure potential. For in the depths of your being, where true vision resides, your desire is already fulfilled. Chapter 17. Revising the Story. In the heart of a bustling city, Dolores sat at her wooden desk each evening, surrounded by patterns and fabric swatches. But it wasn't the dresses she crafted that transformed lives. It was the stories she rewrote in her leather-bound diary. You possess a power greater than merely accepting what was. You hold the sacred ability to reshape the emotional imprint of your past. Just as an artist can paint over an old canvas, your consciousness can rewrite memories that no longer serve your highest good. The past exists now only as an echo in your mind, a story you tell yourself. When you change the story, you alter the vibration it carries into your present moment. This is not denial, it is spiritual alchemy, transmuting lead into gold. Through this ancient practice of revision, you liberate yourself from the chains of what seemed to be, embracing instead what could have been and therefore what is. Each painful memory holds within it a seed of transformation, waiting to bloom into new understanding. Clyde discovered this truth in the quiet hours before dawn. Each morning he would close his eyes and return to his childhood home. Where once stood harsh words and cold silences, he placed warm embraces and gentle guidance. Day by day, the weight of his past grew lighter, until the soldier who returned from war found peace in his own heart. The universe knows no difference between what physically occurred and what you impress deeply upon your consciousness. When you revise a memory, you are not merely pretending. You are engaging the same creative force that shapes worlds. Sacred practice of memory transformation. Select a painful memory that still resonates within you. Sit quietly and breathe deep, letting yourself fully enter that moment. As your consciousness awakens, reimagine how it could have unfolded. Paint the scene anew, each word and gesture transformed by understanding. Experience the emotions, words, and acceptance you needed then. Revisit this revised memory daily for a week, absorbing every detail until this new version becomes your truth. Through this practice, witness how consciousness can heal old wounds and bring light to shadow. Chapter 18. The Practice of Being. In the heart of a sacred temple, Pearl knelt before an ancient master. Her eyes were weary from decades of spiritual seeking, her shoulders heavy with the weight of endless becoming. The master spoke 3 words that shattered her world. Stop becoming, be. You have wandered far in search of transformation, collecting wisdom like precious gems. Yet in this eternal moment a deeper truth awaits. The power you seek has always resided within. The law of assumption asks not for perpetual striving, but for the courage to embody what you already are. When you assume a state, you need not become it gradually. You must be it now. This sacred principle operates not through effort, but through acceptance. The universe responds not to your journey toward a thing, but to your embodiment of it. In each moment, you are either being or pretending, and life reflects back which you have chosen. Watch how Lester discovered this truth. After years of chasing success through endless action, he finally understood. One morning, he simply began moving through his day as though all his desires were fulfilled. He stopped trying to become wealthy and walked as a wealthy man. He ceased attempting to be confident and simply was confident. Within weeks, opportunities appeared, doors opened, and life rearranged itself around his new state of being. This mirrors an ageless truth. What you are seeking is seeking you, but it cannot find you while you chase it. The very act of seeking pushes away what you desire, for seeking implies the absence of what you want. Instead, assume the state of having already received. Let your every breath, movement, and thought flow from that assumption. The practice of being. Rise now and engage in the sacred being walk. For the next 15 minutes, move through space as your ideal self. Feel how this version of you breathes. Notice how your feet touch the ground, how your shoulders rest, how your eyes meet the world. Speak if you feel called, but let the words come from your assumed state. This is not rehearsal, it is reality. You are not practicing to become, you are being who you truly are. Let each step anchor this truth deep within your being. You need not become anything, for everything you seek already resides in the sacred temple of your consciousness. You need only recognize and embody what already exists within, like a flower that does not strain to bloom but naturally unfolds according to divine law. The power of assumption flows not from effort, but from acceptance, from that quiet knowing that transcends all doubt. Be still and know that you are. In this stillness lies the profound recognition of your completeness, your wholeness, your divine perfection waiting to be acknowledged. Chapter 19, The Sabbath of Assumption. In a small cottage lit only by candlelight, Martha held her granddaughter's hand as she shared a truth passed down through generations. Once you plant a seed, she whispered, you must trust it to grow. To dig it up daily to check its progress is to kill what you wish to nurture. You stand now at the threshold of a sacred understanding. The law of assumption requires not just action, but sacred rest. When you speak your desire with conviction and feel its reality within, a divine process begins. Your role then shifts from creator to witness, from doer to believer. This spiritual principle mirrors the ancient teaching of the Sabbath, not merely a day of rest, but a state of profound trust. When you declare your assumption and seal it with faith, any further effort creates resistance. The universe responds not to your striving, but to your knowing. In the marketplace of a bustling town lived Eugene, a merchant whose anxiety kept him awake through countless nights. Each day he would count his coins repeatedly, revise his ledgers obsessively, and worry endlessly about tomorrow's trade. Then an old sage taught him the art of sacred rest. After speaking his intentions each evening, Eugene learned to let go, to trust, to enter the Sabbath of the soul. He stopped checking his accounts compulsively and ceased his constant planning. In this surrender, something miraculous occurred. His business flourished as never before, and peace filled his heart. This story reflects a timeless truth. What you resist persists. When you continue to work after the work is done, you deny the very power you seek to employ. Your assumption, once made with conviction, needs only your trust to bloom. Sacred practice, the candlelit declaration. As twilight approaches, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Let this be your sanctuary, a sacred chamber where the veils between intention and manifestation grow thin. Light a single candle, allowing its flame to remind you of the eternal light of creation that burns within all things. Watch how it dances, steady yet alive with possibility, just as your own divine power moves through you. Speak your assumption with calm authority, feeling its truth in every cell of your being, knowing that your words carry the weight of universal law. Then seal your declaration with these words: "It is done." Remain in silent meditation for several minutes, allowing yourself to rest in complete trust, breathing in the certainty of your declaration. Let the candle's flame remind you that the universe is now working on your behalf, setting in motion forces beyond your mortal understanding. This is your Sabbath moment, your sacred pause of perfect faith, where the seeds of manifestation take root in the fertile soil of divine timing. Chapter 20. Every moment is a portal. In a hidden corner of an ancient clockmaker's shop, Alma discovered a peculiar timepiece. Unlike the other watches that marked the passing of hours, this one seemed to follow a different rhythm. Its hands moved only when she stopped chasing time and settled into the eternal now. You must understand that the present moment is the only point of power. While your mind wanders through memories of what was or dreams of what might be, the sacred now slips away unused. The law of assumption operates solely in this instant, not in some distant future, not in the regretted past. When you assume a state, it must be embodied in your current breath, your current heartbeat, your current step. Most spend their days lost in mental wanderings, assuming states of worry about tomorrow or guilt about yesterday. Yet the power to transform your life exists only in this moment, this sacred gateway through which all manifestation must pass. Each instant holds the potential for complete transformation, but this power remains dormant until you claim it through presence. Your assumptions must be lived now, not planned for later, not remembered from before. The universe responds only to what you are being in this eternal moment. In the fertile valleys of the countryside lived Wallace, a farmer who had always rushed through his days, his mind forever racing ahead to future harvests. One morning, as he watched the sun rise over his field, something shifted within him. He began to treat each moment with reverence, feeling the soil between his fingers, noting the subtle changes in the wind, fully present to the miracle of growth before him. As he learned to live in the now, his connection to the land deepened. His crops grew more abundant, his body grew stronger, and a quiet joy infused his days. This tale mirrors your own journey. When you rush through life always reaching for the next moment, you miss the power contained in this one. Your assumption must be lived now, felt now, known now. It is not a future state to achieve, but a present truth to embody. The practice of present power. Set 5 alarms throughout your day, spacing them from morning until evening like gentle reminders of your divine appointment with the present moment. When each rings, pause whatever you are doing, no matter how urgent it may seem. Take a deep breath and declare with unwavering certainty, "This is the moment it becomes real." Feel the truth of your assumption in this instant, letting it fill your entire being. Know with complete conviction that now, this very now, is where all power resides. Let each alarm serve as a sacred call to presence, a chance to align yourself with the infinite power that exists only in this moment. As you practice this throughout your day, you will begin to sense the profound shift that occurs when you fully claim your power in the eternal now. Part 3. Living as the Assumed Self. Chapter 21. Assume it until you are it. In the quiet streets of a small town, Milton served as a mail clerk, dutifully sorting letters each morning. Yet within him stirred a knowing, an unshakable certainty that he was meant to lead. Without announcement or fanfare, he began carrying himself differently. His shoulders straightened. His voice took on the measured tones of authority, and his eyes held the steady gaze of one who bears responsibility for others. You see, assumption is not a temporary mask, but a transformation of being. When you persistently embody a state, it ceases to be an act and becomes your nature. Milton didn't merely imitate leadership. He assumed it into his bones. He greeted townspeople with genuine care for their concerns. He spoke of community improvements as if they were already in motion. Before any election was announced, the town began turning to him for guidance. The law of assumption works through consistent embodiment. It is not enough to occasionally visit the state you desire. You must live there until it becomes your permanent address. Your new identity must be worn like a second skin until it becomes your only skin. In the halls of a prestigious music academy, Clarabelle sat before her piano, hands trembling as they always did before a performance. But on this day, something shifted within her. Instead of fighting her fear, she began moving as if confidence had always been her companion. Her posture softened, her breathing deepened, and her fingers found the keys with natural grace. She didn't wait to feel ready. She assumed the state of mastery and let her body follow. With each practice session, each performance, she maintained this inner knowing. Soon her hands moved with an assurance that seemed to have existed all along. The music flowed not from practice alone, but from her unwavering assumption of artistic excellence. What these stories reveal is the power of persistent self-image. Change is not accomplished through sporadic effort, but through sustained being. Your assumption must become as natural as breathing, as constant as your heartbeat. Sacred practice. The 7-day assumption. Choose one identity you wish to embody. For the next 7 days, live completely from this chosen state. Let your voice carry its authority, your movements express its nature, your thoughts align with its truth. From the moment you wake until you sleep, maintain this state without break. Do not step out of character. Do not take holidays from your assumption. For these 7 days, let it be your only reality. Chapter 22. The law works through you. In the early hours before dawn, Floyd sat in his modest garage, hands stained with motor oil, when something extraordinary began to unfold. Images flickered through his mind, not the usual mechanical solutions he knew, but innovations that seemed to emerge from a higher source. You see, the law of assumption operates not through force of will, but through alignment with divine intelligence. As you walk this sacred path, understand that you do not need to strain or struggle to make the law work. It is already working, flowing like an eternal river. Your role is to step into its current state with quiet certainty. Floyd didn't question the visions or doubt their source. He simply allowed them to move through him, picking up his tools with the confidence of one guided by unseen hands. The law of assumption reveals itself most powerfully when you surrender the need to control its operation. It is not your servant, but a divine force expressing through your being. When you assume a state with this understanding, you become a pure channel for its expression. In a small neighborhood, Eudora began living from a simple truth. Abundance was her natural state. She didn't announce this knowing or try to convince others. She simply moved through her days embodying quiet prosperity. Her garden overflowed, her table always had room for one more, and her home became a center of warmth and plenty. What unfolded next revealed the true nature of the law. As Eudora allowed abundance to flow through her, it began touching everyone around her. Neighbors started sharing more freely. Community meals became common, and a spirit of generosity spread through the streets. She had become a vessel through which the law could bless many. This truth stands before you now. The law of assumption asks not for your effort, but for your allowance. It seeks not your striving, but your surrender. When you assume a state while recognizing yourself as a channel for divine power, manifestation unfolds with grace and ease. Each morning as the sun rises, pause and speak these words with reverence. I am the channel. The law flows through me. I assume, and it is done. Let this invocation remind you that you need not force or manipulate. Simply allow the law to express through your being. In this sacred moment of dawn, when the veil between worlds grows thin, your declaration becomes a bridge between divine intention and earthly manifestation. Feel the truth of these words resonating in your heart, knowing that just as the sun rises without effort, so too does the law work through you with perfect grace. This daily practice aligns you with the natural flow of universal abundance, transforming you into a willing vessel through which all good things must pass. Chapter 23. The Embodied Word. In a small mountain town, Thomas stood before his congregation one final Sunday morning. After 40 years of preaching about divine truth, he realized a profound wisdom. The highest teaching requires no words. You see, the law of assumption manifests most purely through silent embodiment. When you align thought, word, and deed into perfect harmony, you create a vibrational statement more powerful than any sermon. Thomas understood this as he quietly packed away his formal robes and began walking among his community as one transformed. He no longer spoke of peace, he became peace. He ceased preaching about abundance. He lived it in every gesture. The law responds not to what you say about yourself, but to what you are. As Thomas moved through his days with quiet certainty, those around him began to shift. His presence alone became a catalyst for change. Without a single word of instruction, his neighbors found themselves naturally embracing higher ways of being. This truth stands before you now. Embodiment is the language of transformation. Your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. When you truly assume a state, it radiates from every cell of your being. In a bustling market square, Eunice worked at her sewing table, yet something had changed in her demeanor. She no longer hunched over her work with the bearing of one who must struggle. Instead, she sat tall, moved with grace, and spoke with the quiet authority of one who knows her worth. Watch closely how this simple shift created ripples through her world. Customers began treating her with new respect. Better opportunities found their way to her door. Her prices were met without negotiation. She had not changed her work, she had changed her presence. The law of assumption operates through the full spectrum of your being. Your posture, your tone, your breath. These are the subtle languages through which your assumptions express themselves. When you truly assume a state, your body naturally aligns with this new truth. Throughout your day, choose one aspect of your physical presence to embody your highest assumption. Perhaps it is standing taller, speaking with quiet authority, or moving with unhurried grace. Let this new way of being remind your entire system of who you truly are. Practice this embodied assumption until it becomes as natural as breathing. This is not about pretense or performance. It is about allowing your physical form to align with the truth you hold within. Your body becomes the living prayer of your assumption, speaking in a language the universe cannot ignore. Select now a single embodied habit that reflects your chosen state. Whether it be the way you enter a room, the rhythm of your breath, or the set of your shoulders, let this physical anchor remind you throughout the day of the truth you are living into. Practice this new way of being as a sacred ritual of becoming. Chapter 24, Magnetic Identity. In a quiet corner of time, where golden sunlight filtered through dusty windows, there lived a watchmaker named Otis. His small shop, filled with the gentle rhythm of ticking timepieces, held a power far beyond the mechanics of hours and minutes. Those who entered seeking repairs found themselves lingering, drawn by an inexplicable peace that emanated from his presence. You see, Otis had discovered the magnetic force of aligned assumption. He never spoke of inner peace. He simply was peace itself. His movements, his breath, his silence, all sang the same song of tranquil mastery. Soon people began visiting his shop not for their watches, but for the transformative energy that surrounded him. When you fully embody your assumption, you create a magnetic field that draws others into its influence. This is not something you do, it is something you become. The universe responds not to your efforts, but to your state of being. In a bustling city across the valley lived Della, a mother of 3 who worked as a cleaning woman. One morning, while polishing a mirror in a wealthy home, she caught her reflection and made a decision. She would no longer see herself as someone who served. She would see herself as royalty serving her kingdom. This shift was subtle yet absolute. She began moving with quiet dignity, speaking with gentle authority, treating each task as a royal duty. She assumed the identity of a queen not through external trappings, but through inner knowing. Watch what followed. Her employers began consulting her on household decisions. Her children's behavior transformed in response to her new presence. Even strangers on the street stepped aside as she passed, sensing something regal in her bearing. The law of assumption works through this magnetic principle. When you truly become what you seek, you need not chase it. It chases you. Your aligned energy becomes a beacon that reality must answer. Sacred practice. Create your magnetic identity statement, who you truly are at soul level. Face the mirror, hold your own gaze, and declare, I am your highest identity. Let this truth infuse your movements, voice, and presence throughout the day. Your statement should ring authentic now, not as a future wish. Watch your body align with this elevated self. Shoulders back, breath deep, gaze clear. The mirror reveals your highest self manifesting physically. Feel your words resonate through your entire being. This magnetic identity guides all actions, making ordinary moments sacred expressions of your divine nature. Chapter 25. Shedding the Skin of the Past. In a dimly lit room adorned with faded photographs and dusty trophies, Earl, once celebrated as the Thunder of the Ring, stood motionless. His calloused hands, which had known nothing but violence, now held a leather-bound journal. The golden trophies that lined his walls no longer whispered tales of glory. They echoed a story that was no longer his to tell. You have within you many versions of self, each playing its part in the grand theater of your becoming. Yet there comes a sacred moment when you must release what was to embrace what shall be. Earl understood this truth as he gathered his medals, his newspaper clippings, his championship belt, all symbols of an identity that no longer served his soul's evolution. In the quiet hours before dawn, he carried these artifacts of his past self into his garden and set them aflame. As the metal melted and the papers turned to ash, Earl picked up his pen and wrote his first poem. In that moment, he wasn't trying to become a poet, he simply was one. The law of assumption requires not just the claiming of a new identity, but the graceful release of the old. Your energy cannot serve two masters. What you grip tightly with one hand cannot be received with the other. In a small town by the sea, Lillian had worn her widow's black for 7 years. Her grief had become her identity, a familiar shadow she wrapped around herself each morning. But one dawn, as she watched the sun paint the waves in brilliant color, she heard an inner voice whisper, "Choose life." That afternoon, she opened her wardrobe and touched the colorful dresses that had hung untouched for so long. With trembling fingers, she removed her black veil for the last time. As she stepped into a dress the color of spring flowers, she felt joy stirring in places grief had claimed as its own. The physical act of releasing old symbols opens channels for new energy to flow. Your chosen assumption cannot fully bloom while rooted in the soil of past identities. Sacred practice of release. Find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed and center yourself in stillness. Light a candle if you wish, creating an atmosphere of sacred intention. Take pen to paper and write a letter to the self you are leaving behind, that identity which has served its purpose but must now be released. Thank this version of yourself for its protection, its wisdom, and even its pain, for these were the stepping stones that led you to this moment of transformation. Acknowledge the lessons learned, both bitter and sweet, that shaped your journey. With loving compassion, declare your conscious release of this old self, knowing that this dissolution makes space for your new assumption to flourish. When your letter feels complete, perform a sacred ceremony of release. Burn the letter and watch the smoke carry your old identity into the ethers, or bury it in rich soil where it can decompose and nourish new growth. As you witness this physical act of letting go, know that your new assumption is taking deeper root in the fertile soil of your consciousness, ready to blossom into magnificent expression. Chapter 26. Commanding Reality with Grace. In the bustling marketplace of an ancient city, Chester's voice once rang out above all others. His stall, adorned with exotic wares, drew crowds through the sheer force of his personality. Yet despite his thunderous proclamations of quality and value, his coffers remained as empty as his words. You must understand that the universe responds not to volume, but to vibration. The law of assumption works through the quiet certainty of inner knowing, not the desperate clamor of outer convincing. One dawn, as Chester arranged his wares in silence, an old sage paused at his stall. "The truth," the sage whispered, "needs no herald." Those words settled into Chester's heart like seeds in fertile soil. From that day forward, he spoke less but meant more. He stopped announcing his worth and began assuming it. His presence became like still water, deep and clear. Soon customers were drawn not by his calls, but by the magnetic power of his silent certainty. The law of assumption operates with greatest power when wielded with gentle authority. It is the difference between commanding the sun to rise and knowing it will. One is the act of fear, the other, the stance of faith. In a small schoolhouse on the edge of town, Fern taught her lessons with a voice that barely carried to the back row. Her colleagues advised her to be more forceful, to establish control through volume and strict discipline, but something within her knew a different way. Each morning before her students arrived, she would sit at her desk and silently affirm, "I am a channel of wisdom and light. My presence inspires growth." She never raised her voice to demand attention. Instead, she assumed her influence as naturally as a flower assumes the sun will shine. Gradually, her classroom transformed. The children began to lean in to catch her quiet words. The atmosphere shifted from chaos to calm, not through external force, but through the power of her unwavering inner assumption. Your word carries power not through volume but through conviction. When you speak from the place of knowing, even a whisper can move mountains. The universe does not need you to shout your desires. It needs you to embody them with quiet confidence. Sacred practice. Choose one truth you wish to manifest, a single seed of intention you are ready to nurture into being. As the sun rises and bathes the world in golden light, speak your truth aloud once with calm authority, letting each word resonate with unwavering certainty. As dusk paints the sky in violet hues, affirm it again, allowing your declaration to merge with the peaceful transition from day to night. Between these sacred bookends of the day, release your truth into the silence of your heart, trusting that the law of assumption is already at work through your quiet knowledge. Your conviction, held steadily in the stillness of your being, carries more power than 1,000 shouted prayers. The universe responds not to the volume of your voice, but to the depth of your belief. Chapter 27. Living from the Inside Out. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, where merchants' shouts and buyers' haggling created a constant din, Silas would sit with his worn violin. The chaos of commerce swirled around him, yet he remained untouched by its frenzy. While others fought to be heard above the noise, he simply closed his eyes and played the melody that lived within his heart. You must understand that the world outside will always offer its chaos, its opinions, and its demands. Yet the law of assumption teaches that your reality springs not from these external forces, but from the unwavering certainty you hold within. Each day, Silas would take his place among the crowd, not competing with the noise but allowing his inner music to flow. Soon, the marketplace began to change. People would pause, then gather, drawn not by volume but by the quiet authority of his presence. The outer noise didn't cease, but it no longer held power over the reality he chose to create. Within you lies this same sovereign power. Your world is not shaped by the clamor of circumstances, but by the steady pulse of your inner knowing. In a small cottage on the outskirts of town lived Myra, whose life had long been measured by others' expectations. After her husband's passing, neighbors offered endless advice about how a widow should behave, dress, and live. For months she tried to conform to their well-meaning suggestions until one morning she gazed into her mirror and remembered who she truly was. From that day forward, Myra stopped seeking validation from the world outside. She wore colors that pleased her soul, smiled when her heart felt joy, and moved through life guided by her inner light. Those who once offered unsolicited counsel now found themselves drawn to her presence, wondering at the quiet radiance she emanated. Your power to shape reality does not depend on external permission or approval. The law of assumption operates from the throne room of your own heart, where you alone reign sovereign over your experience. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Place your hand over your heart, gently close your eyes, and feel the warmth beneath your palm. This is your center of power, the sacred space where all creation begins. With quiet authority, speak these words. My world begins within me. Let this truth settle into your being. Practice this ritual daily, preferably at dawn when the world is still, and your inner voice can be heard most clearly. Chapter 28. Miracles are assumed. In the sun-scorched valley where hope had withered like the crops, Enoch stood each morning before his barren fields. While others had abandoned their land to the relentless drought, he continued to prepare the soil as though rain were certain. You see, he had discovered a truth that transcended the visible world, that nature itself responds not to what eyes can see, but to what the heart knows with certainty. The law of assumption reveals that what you call miraculous is simply the natural response to unwavering inner conviction. When you assume an outcome with the same certainty with which you assume the sun will rise, the universe has no choice but to align with your knowledge. That morning, as Enoch tilled the dusty earth and planted seeds in the parched ground, neighbors watched with mixture of pity and concern. Yet he moved with the calm assurance of one who sees beyond the apparent. As he worked, he spoke to his fields as though they were already lush with life. That night, clouds gathered, and by dawn, rain blessed the valley for the first time in months. Your world is not bound by what others call possible or impossible. These are merely assumptions that have been accepted without question. The truly miraculous occurs not through hoping or pleading, but through knowing. In a small nursing home, Hattie lay in her bed where doctors said she would remain. But in her mind, she began to walk. Each morning, she would close her eyes and feel her feet touching the floor, her legs strong and steady. She assumed the sensation of movement with such clarity that her body had no choice but to follow her inner knowing. While nurses spoke of acceptance and limitations, Hattie spoke only the language of wholeness. She felt the sun on her face as though she were already walking in the garden. She assumed the strength in her limbs as a present reality, not a distant hope. Within weeks, she was taking her first steps, and soon after, walking the halls with quiet dignity. This power dwells within you now. What you have labeled impossible exists only because you have accepted that label. The moment you assume a new truth with unwavering certainty, the miraculous becomes natural. The impossible becomes inevitable. Sacred practice. The Miracle Manifesto. Take a moment now to sit in silence. Choose one desire you have dismissed as too vast, too impossible. On a clean page, write your Miracle Manifesto, a declaration of what is already done. Write in the present tense with the calm certainty of one who knows. Begin with these words: "It is done. I now walk in the reality where." Let your words carry the weight of absolute knowing, for in this knowing lies the seed of manifestation. Chapter 29. You were always the answer. In the depths of winter, Clarence sat before his mirror, weary from decades of seeking wisdom in distant lands. He had climbed mountains to meet masters, crossed oceans to find teachers, and spent fortunes on those who claimed to hold the keys to enlightenment. Yet this morning, as he gazed into his own reflection, something shifted. You see, the greatest truth often hides in plain sight, waiting for you to remember what you have always known. As Clarence looked into his own eyes, he heard not his usual self-critical thoughts, but a voice of profound wisdom, his own voice speaking with the authority of ages. The law of assumption reveals itself most purely when you recognize that every master, every teaching, and every transformation points back to the power within you. Your assumptions shape not just your circumstances, but the very essence of your being. In a distant village, Bernadette wandered with maps and scrolls, searching for the sacred temple of transformation. Each path led her in circles until, exhausted and confused, she returned home. There, in her own garden, she discovered that every question she had carried found its answer in the quiet of her heart. What Bernadette discovered, and what you must now understand, is that the power you seek has never left you. It flows through your thoughts, speaks through your words, and moves through your being. Every assumption you hold creates ripples in the fabric of your reality. The mystics of old spoke of this truth, that you are not merely a seeker of power, but power itself expressing through human form. Your assumptions are not mere thoughts. They are divine decrees waiting to be acknowledged. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment, free from distraction, and write a declaration of power, a sacred letter from your highest self to your present self. Let the wisdom that has always resided within you speak freely, without doubt or hesitation. Pour onto the page the truths you have known in your deepest moments of clarity. Your inner voice holds centuries of knowing, waiting to be expressed through your words. Sign this declaration with love and reverence, knowing that the voice of truth comes not from some distant source, but from your own awakened heart. This declaration becomes your testament to the power you have always carried, a bridge between who you believe yourself to be and who you truly are in your infinite nature. Chapter 30. The Light You Now Carry. In the quiet hours before dawn, Jebediah climbed the winding stairs of his lighthouse, as he had done for 40 years. But this morning was different. Beside him walked Thomas, his young apprentice, eyes bright with wonder. You see, the flame that guides ships to shore is more than mere fire. It is a symbol of the light that burns within all who awaken to their true power. Through the law of assumption, you have discovered that same sacred flame, the knowing that your inner light shapes the world around you. Like Jebediah's lighthouse, your awakened consciousness now stands as a beacon for others finding their way through darkness. As you read these words, understand that you have become more than a student of these teachings. The assumptions you hold, the reality you command, and the presence you embody now serve as living testimony to the power of this ancient law. In a small village by the sea, Geneva sat at her wooden table, needle and thread dancing through fabric, as she spoke softly to her neighbor about transformation. She didn't consider herself a teacher. She simply shared how changing her inner dialogue had altered her life. Yet her quiet wisdom spread through the town like morning light, awakening others to their own power. One by one, those around her began to shift. The fisherman's wife, who always spoke of lack, began assuming abundance. The baker, who feared failure, started greeting each morning as a master of his craft. Without fanfare or proclamation, Geneva's living example sparked a revolution of consciousness. This is the deepest truth you must now embrace. Your journey of assumption has prepared you not just for personal transformation, but for the sacred role of illuminating the path for others. Not through preaching or persuasion, but through the quiet authority of one who walks in their power. Sacred practice. Take a moment now to share one truth, one story, or one transformation that the law of assumption has awakened within you. Speak it to someone whose heart is ready to hear. Someone who has shown curiosity about your journey or expressed a yearning for deeper understanding. Like passing a flame from one candle to another, allow your experience to light the way for another soul's journey. Share not from a place of pride or superiority, but with the humble recognition that you too once stood where they stand. Let your words carry the gentle authority of lived experience, knowing that your vulnerability in sharing may be the very key that unlocks another's awakening. In this sharing, the ancient wisdom continues its flow through time, touching life after life with its transformative power, weaving an unbroken thread of illumination that stretches back through countless generations of seekers and sages. Conclusion. You now hold the sacred key, not to a destination, but to a way of being. This journey has not been about learning something new, but remembering what your soul has always known. Your assumptions create your world. Your inner dialogue is divine command, and your state of being determines your fate. The wisdom contained within these chapters is not mine to give. It has existed since the dawn of consciousness, waiting to be rediscovered by those ready to awaken. Like the eternal flame in Jebediah's lighthouse, this truth has been passed from soul to soul, illuminating the path for those who seek. Through these teachings, you have remembered your divine inheritance. The law of assumption is not merely a principle, it is the very mechanism through which consciousness creates reality. Every word you speak, every feeling you embody, every assumption you hold becomes the blueprint from which your life is built. Though this book draws to a close, your real work begins now. Each morning brings a new canvas upon which to paint with the colors of your consciousness. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to live from your highest assumption. Each challenge transforms into an invitation to demonstrate the power of your inner knowing. Let your life become a living testament to these truths. When you speak, let it be with the authority of one who knows their words shape reality. When you imagine, let it be with the certainty that your visions are already manifesting. When you assume a new state of being, let it be with complete surrender to its inevitable expression. The law of assumption is not a technique to be mastered, but a truth to be lived. You are its vessel, its expression, its living proof. May every breath you take be infused with this knowledge. May every step you take be guided by this power. May every moment be lived from the unshakable certainty that you are the creator, and you are always unstoppable. If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.